And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for the first time since 2007, are division champions.
And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winter Haven, and even Wachula. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enter the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers."
Welcome to San Diego, California. Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up the middle. It's intercepted at the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time. Throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw. Throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open. Makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski inside the 20 to the 15-10. Gronkowski to the 5 to the 4-yard line. Holy guacamole. There's the snap. Mahomes running to his right. Look out. He may run. Mahomes goes toward the end down. Battle intercepted. Picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world, and we still have a minute 33 to go. Devin White.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
For the first time since 2007, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are NFC South champions. The shorthanded Buccaneers offense is able to hit the road for a division matchup in Carolina. And they score 30-plus points to put away the Panthers, 32-6. The defense holds Carolina to only 6 points. Oh, and they also go ahead and produce a season-high 7 sacks on the day. The Buccaneers win the division, clinch a playoff berth, and all seems right with the world. Welcome back to the Cannon Fire Podcast, live on YouTube today for episode 238. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. How we feeling, my friend? What a win for the Bucs.
Yeah, and we talked about it beforehand. It was just a game that, even though the Panthers were up 3-0, they scored first. It never really felt in doubt to me.
Yeah.
I felt like a comfortable game. There was never any nervous moments. It always felt like, even when Carolina got some things going, it was just like, okay, like it was no big deal. And it was nice, especially, with being as banged up as the Bucs were. It was nice to get that win.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you need. I mean, call it a, call it a bounce back game if you want, call it a get right game, but it's a perfect answer to what the Bucs put on the field last week. You lose to a division opponent. Your defense only gives up 9 points. Your offense cannot do anything because of injuries. And this week, you do get Antonio Brown back, but you got a lot of other guys who needed to step up today, and that's exactly what they were able to do. So we're going to talk about all of that and more over the next 45 minutes or so, but let's go ahead and dive right into this thing. I want to talk about the defense first. I know the storyline of the offense and the makeshift wide receiver room they had, the younger guys who had to step up. I know that's a nice storyline, but let's talk about what this defense was able to do, because they've only given up 15 points over the last 2 weeks, and that's back-to-back games against a division opponent.
And no touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. No touchdowns either. And I think a guy who stood out the most on that defense today was number 33, Jordan Whitehead. I mean, immediately he made his presence felt from the first drive of the game. He basically alley-ooped a sack over to Will Golston, I believe, who also had 2.5 sacks on the day. But Jordan Whitehead came off of that blitz unblocked, was able to get a hand in there and help bring down Cam Newton. He had the interception later on in the first half, and aside from that, he was just all over the field. He was putting on a tackling clinic out there. It was probably one of the best career performances I have ever seen from Jordan Whitehead.
I think that probably was his best performance. That's the best I've seen him, at least. Yeah, he was all over the place and really well deserved.
He kind of had it's a tic-tac call, but the roughing the passer at the end of the first half was really the only blemish I can think of today. But again, it's just, it was a weird call.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, he's doing what he does. I mean, if Newton would have got rid of that ball earlier on the alley-oop sack, it would have been called. So it's, like I said, it was a very nice game for him, and he's had a very nice season. And I mean, the team is different when he's not out there. It is a difference when he's not there. So it was really nice to see him back out there healthy and, being able to contribute, because I mean, he's a good football player.
Oh yeah, 100%. As we look at what else this defense was able to do, as I mentioned before, a season high 7 total sacks for this defense. Will Golston put up a career high 2.5 sacks today. He had, again, one of the better performances of his career, and really just a testament of how he's benefited from this Todd Bowles system. But really, a lot of those sacks came together after Shaq Barrett left the game. We'll talk about him really quick. Shaq went down with an injury, came back into the game for a few snaps, and then the Bucs just ended up putting him out. You better believe it's nothing more than just the Bucs being careful here, right? You want to keep this guy healthy for the playoffs. That's your number one goal towards the end of the season. And I think clearly the way the Panthers offensive line was playing today, they thought they could get some production without 58 on the field, and they were definitely able to do so.
So they were able to, like you said, able to have success with that. Barrett, Bruce Arians says, has a minor MCL injury. So obviously we'll see if he ends up playing or not next week. It's the Jets. So, I mean, you shouldn't need Shaq Barrett to win next week, but it'd still be nice to get him to go. But I mean, at this point, the number one priority has got to be the playoffs. That has to be, it's got to be getting guys 100% healthy. If they absolutely needed Mike Evans to play today, I think he could have. Like I do, if they absolutely needed him to play, but why risk it, right? So I think that's the reason they took Barrett out as well. But I mean, 7 sacks. I tweeted before the game. I said there's no excuse for the defensive line not just go out and dominate, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, from start to finish, really, there was no warm up period for this defensive line. They were getting after it, and the 7 sacks is their most since 2013 against Buffalo. So it's been a while since they've had that many sacks in a game, and it was really nice to see.
100%. Another storyline I want to talk about with this defense, or just something I took away from this game, Jordan Whitehead definitely left the charge, but it felt like tackling was a lot better this week. There didn't seem to be very many instances where plays got away from them. I know it was 33 or 44 yards of a quarterback run for Cam Newton early on in the game, but aside from that, there weren't many huge bursts of offense for Carolina. Like Sam Darnold had that nice throw when he came into the game later on.
It's a broken play, yeah.
Right. It's one of those things where you can't entirely be upset with the way the defense fell apart there, but like there weren't too many moments in this game like that where, it felt like Carolina was really driving, and I thought tackling was a big part of that.
No, and I mean, some of that is just due to Carolina being completely inept. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, the two quarterback system is stupid. Like, it really is. It's just, neither quarterback can get into any sort of rhythm, especially with a bad offensive line. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the Carolina coaching staff was thinking, but yeah, I mean, really, I thought Devin White had a really nice tackling day. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about Jordan Whitehead again. He had a really nice day just doing everything. But yeah, I thought everybody really stepped up well. And, having that fully healthy secondary finally, or I should say cornerback room, because Antoine Winfield was still out. It was good to see them be able to have that success with the cornerback room, who really, I mean, yeah, Carlton Davis just came back, Sean Murphy Bunting's been back, but Jamel Dean was then out, and just you haven't had that group really together a lot. So with Richard Sherman, who I didn't really see out there much, he was out there a little bit towards the end, but it was nice to see. And yeah, the tackling was definitely good. So like I said, a lot of it has to do with Carolina just sometimes, I mean, not even being able to, some of it has to do with them not even being able to get rid of the ball because they were getting sacked or getting hit. But other times, yeah, it was really good. And I mean, the Panthers really didn't even try to run the ball. So
yeah, and I think it's exactly what you want from a defense. Their ability to make plays, their ability to limit plays for Carolina's offense. It's exactly what you want in the situation that you're in, right? Your offense comes in. It's kind of an experimental first half for those guys. There's clearly some miscommunication, some errors that they had to clean up. Well, when your defense is kicking ass the way that Tampa Bay did today, you usually feel pretty confident in games like that. But that's, really good to see from this defense, and just a textbook performance from them. Let's go ahead and talk about the other side of the football. We'll start with the quarterback. Talk about Tom Brady. I thought for the most part, TB12 played well, right? No turnovers, a fairly pedestrian afternoon as far as his season average for stats goes, but he definitely got the job done. I think more than anything, as we look at this offense as a whole, I think execution errors let Tom down a bit today. There was some frustration in the first half, and his body language definitely said it all at certain times in this game. But I think at the end of the day, just some errors, miscommunications that they had to get through and get over in the first half, and that comes with the territory of being shorthanded the way they are.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it was definitely like we talked about, it might not have been the prettiest in the world, right? And it wasn't gonna be, I don't think, especially on just short notice. Losing Chris Godwin is a huge loss, but then you also have to lose Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette. Now, luckily, the running back stepped up. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but yeah, I thought Brady did a really good job. I thought there was a really good job to game plan to get the ball in Antonio Brown's hands with some quick stuff, quick outs, stuff like that, to just get him the ball, right? Get it in his hands. I thought that was really well done. And obviously, I guess you can't give any credit to the coaching staff because that's forbidden. But I thought the coaching staff did a really nice job of that. I expect to see a little bit more of the tight ends, just a little bit. I thought, early on, I thought maybe, okay, you test out AB a little bit, but eventually, you get those tight ends involved. And it just really didn't happen. There was a few plays where there's some miscommunications with the tight ends, or, OJ Howard had a nice screen pass that was called back on a penalty. But it's, yeah, it was a really nice day for Brady, a pedestrian day, but hey, it gets the job done, and he didn't make any mistakes. This is still a good Carolina defense, and he was able to control himself and really control the game.
Oh, yeah. And as we talk about some of those execution errors here, forgive the dog. Come here. Hey. Sorry, I got to do this. That's the magic of doing live podcasts, right? As we talk about some of these execution errors for Tampa Bay, before we really dive into the good stuff, because I promise we're going to get to that. There's plenty to talk about. But you had mentioned, some of those execution errors, and I think some people are very quick to just, to pin it on this coaching staff, to pin it on a guy like Byron Leftwich, who we have defended on the podcast this week. I know regular listeners are kind of used to that, but that third down play with the miscommunication with the tight ends, I think is a perfect example to use here. It was 3rd and 2, and basically the Bucs had 3 tight ends lined up on the right side of the field. And the way the play design worked, Rob Gronkowski and OJ Howard had to get outside and block. Cam Brate would start outside, cut inside on a slant route, go behind the blockers, catch the football. And if he caught the football, it would have been a first down Tampa Bay because he would have gotten 3 yards, and that's really all they needed. Well, O.J. Howard didn't entirely get off of his block in time. Cam Brate runs into him, isn't able to finish the route. And you know how quick Tom Brady gets rid of the football. By the time that miscommunication already happens and Cam's not where he's supposed to be, the ball's going to be there, right? So that's execution. That wasn't a bad play call. I thought it was a great play call. And if it had been executed the way it was supposed to be, Cam probably would have gotten a first down and maybe 10 more yards, because there weren't a lot of people sitting there in the middle of the field waiting for him. So, just execution errors. But again, circling back to how shorthanded they were, it's just something they had to get over. But it definitely held this offense back a few times in this game.
A little bit, mostly execution in the red zone a lot too. The score could have been much better. They could have scored over 40, right? Could have got close to 50 if the red zone offense was a little bit better. But, yet again, that's where that might be an adjustment. How much are you actually going to be able to practice red zone with the guys you currently have right now? You practice red zone all in training camp with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and everybody there. But now it's an adjustment there. So I think, that's going to be a work in progress a little bit. You might have Mike Evans back next week, but that'll still be a little bit of a work in progress. Was a little bit, I think G Vegas mentioned this, was a little bit disappointing that Gronkowski came up short in the red zone a few times, specifically on the one where it was a tougher catch, but it seemed like one he probably should have made. He says, but Gronkowski hasn't been dominant since he came back from his injury. I think you look at that Indianapolis game and you look at the Atlanta game, and I beg to differ. I think he's been really good in those games. It's just, I think last week's game and then the inactivity in this week's game sort of makes it seem that way, but he was fine.
I think it's also important to mention with a guy like Gronk, because I did want to kind of ask the question of what's been going on with him, specifically these last 2 weeks, really. He's had the drops, but at the same time, I think it's also important to remember that, he's the kind of guy where he's going to get looks, but when he's not getting looks, 99% of the time, he is either being manhandled or he is in double coverage, right? Most of the time, he's covered. And a lot of the throws that are being thrown to him that he's not able to reel in, some people would refer to it as vintage Gronk, because it's he's one-on-one coverage with a guy who's being physical. He's going to win that matchup. He's going to jump up and be physical and get the football. He hasn't done that every single time after doing it against Atlanta and doing it against Indy, like you had just brought up. So I guess it does beg the question, but is this something we need to worry about as the playoffs get closer? I personally feel like this guy is fine, and it's just kind of a weird patch for him.
His quarterback's Tom Brady,
right?
They're up there in the history books for a reason. No, there's nothing to worry about.
Honestly. I've got every reason to believe Tom's going to pull him aside this week and have a come to Jesus speak with him, though, because after he dropped that one in the end zone, even Tom was on the sidelines like, what is he doing?
Well, no, that wasn't really about that. That was about the previous play where Brady had to call a timeout because Gronkowski was lined up on the wrong side.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's what Brady was more angry about.
Maybe the broadcast made it a little misleading, because I was under the assumption he was referring to the drop in the end zone.
Yeah, no, but Brady was pretty upset that he had to take a timeout there because Gronkowski was on the wrong side. But that's mostly, you're not going to find Brady really too angry at guys for performance things. It's more of the mental stuff, right? The lining up on the wrong side or this and that. It's more about that stuff that he gets really angry at. So yeah, but I'm not worried about Gronkowski. He'll be fine.
Well, let's talk about what this offense did well today, because they certainly did do that. We talked about the makeshift wide receiver room they had. They were able to put up over 30 points on the road in a division contest. And the guy who led the charge today, leading receiver on the team, business was definitely booming. 10 receptions for 101 yards, one Antonio Brown. What a return for AB. Welcome back to this offense. No touchdowns, unfortunately, to really pad just such a great stat line, but really a great start for Antonio Brown and great news for this offense. He was wide open today.
Well, a lot of times it's because of the scheming. A lot of times it's because scheming to get the ball in his hands. And Carolina was sending a lot of pressure looks towards Brady, and he's just able to recognize. I don't know why they were doing that, but he's able to recognize it so easily and just get the ball to guys. He did a few times as a real Grayson too. So, I thought AB looked good. didn't really look any rusty or anything. Ankle looked good and everything. So yeah, it's important for him to be back. He wasn't as explosive today, but that's not what you need, right? Sometimes this wasn't going to be that type of game, right? They had the two explosive plays, but one through the air with a Surreal Grayson play. But it wasn't going to be that type of game. But AB did his job, and that's all you can really ask for right now. So I mean, it was good to see him out there. Like I said, the ankle looked good. He wasn't playing against some scrub corner. I mean, they had Stephon Gilmore on him for a good bit of the game, and he handled Gilmore pretty well. So it was nice to see. And Brady and Brown just have really good chemistry.
Another guy in this passing attack who stepped up today was an unlikely name, but a welcome one. Surreal Grayson, 3 receptions for 81 yards, and his prettiest catch of the day was no doubt the first one he had. It was, 60-something odd yards. I don't remember the exact metric, but I actually jumped on with our buddy James over on his live stream at halftime and talked to him about this. This was probably my favorite play of the game. Would have been perfect if it was a touchdown, but it was a great route run by Grayson, and he was really showing awesome mobility today. So the one that I'm referring to, his first catch of the day, it looked like he was just going to run an out route because, on the Fox broadcast, you can really only see so much of the top of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like he was just going to run an out route and maybe sit there on the sideline or try and come back and make a play on the football. Well, he just cut right back up the field once he hit the sideline, and he absolutely cooked the DB that was on him. And he's wide open. Tom Brady able to find him. The rest is history. But, another young guy who was able to step up today. And, those are the performances that you need. It was good to see that from another guy on this offense today.
No, you're right. That's the type of performance you need when you're down this many players on offense. They needed a guy like Tyler Johnson or a guy like Surreal Grayson or a guy like Scotty Miller. They needed somebody else to step up. Right. I think you kind of assumed that, Antonio Brown might be able to do his thing. They might have some success running the ball. Maybe the tight ends get implemented. But in order to be able to have success, you're going to need that other guy. Right. Like you're going to need that other guy to get it done. And Surreal Grayson was that guy. So kudos to him. Really. He had a really nice game. He's had a really nice season here in spurts, obviously. But he's had a really nice time. And they ran a few end arounds with him, which worked for the most part. I mean, that one fake end around was really nice where they faked it to Vaughn and threw it to him. So we'll see if they use that again next week. I don't see it. I mean, maybe he's activated, maybe he's not, because Rashad Perryman should be back off of the COVID list, and Jalen Darden also should be back. So we'll see if they use him at all. Jalen Darden hasn't really shown you much, and Surreal Grayson just showed you there that he can do it a little bit. So I'm not sure. They might have a tough decision there as far as like the practice squad elevations and stuff, even though I do think that Surreal Grayson's elevations are done. So they would have to put him on the active roster. Justin Watson was active. So, I mean, they got a couple of moves they can do. But, Surreal Grayson really stepped up. And this offense needed somebody else, right? There needed to be an unlikely hero to step up. And Grayson was that guy today. And hopefully, maybe next week it's somebody else. Because if Mike Evans doesn't play, I think he might. But if he doesn't, somebody else has got to step up. It can't just be all AB. It has to be somebody else, because this offense won't reach its full potential. As banged up as it is, it won't reach its full potential if it's just one guy.
On the topic of unlikely heroes, another guy who stepped up today, your boy, huh?
I know.
Big 2-1. Sneak. So Keyshawn Vaughn, what a day for him. 55-yard touchdown right out of the gate to put the Buccaneers up 7-0. And while his level,
grin on my face.
While his level of production didn't necessarily, maintain throughout all 4 quarters of this game, that touchdown was pretty important to what this offense was able to do, because they still had the rest of those adjustments. And Keyshawn Vaughn's touchdown really was what kept this game as comfortable as a lead as it was entire
that was the
afternoon.
first touchdown. That was the first touchdown of the game.
Yeah.
That was the first score of the game. The Bucs got on the board. So, it's like I said, I started grinning. Don't worry though. He got us back with that critical drop on 3rd down. He got us back. Don't worry. I was like, there he is.
I wanted to.
There he is.
I wanted to, I wanted to try and say, hey, it's great for Keyshawn Vaughn to finally put up some good film. Something he can look back on. I mean, he did have the receiving touchdown from Brady, I think week 3 of 2020 against LA. Week 4. But, aside from that,
yeah.
so a 55-yard just rush to the crib is definitely going to make your highlight reel.
I think it was either Johnson or Grayson who was also blocking on that play.
Yeah,
really
whoever
nice
that lead receiver was, man, they were doing well today.
So yeah, just a good day for him. It's good. I thought he was really good as a runner. It's just as a receiver, he just gives you nothing. Like he gives you absolutely nothing as a receiver. And I don't think that's going to change. So I was surprised we didn't see Le'Veon Bell, earlier, besides when the game was already decided. But hey, I mean, when Keyshawn Vaughn and Ronald Jones were running the ball that good and Tom Brady only had to throw the ball 28 times or something, you didn't need Le'Veon Bell for that. And that's good.
Yeah, Ronald Jones, by the way, his stats for today, 20 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Pretty good day for Ronald Jones. I wish he could have done a little more with 20 carries because he has been more productive in the past, but the way he started this game was important because I also think that's something that factored into the offense, just finding their rhythm, giving these guys more time to really get that passing game down pat. Antonio Brown, of course, getting warmed up, but yeah, I thought Rojo had a pretty solid day. The first half, it felt like every time he got the ball, it was, almost a guaranteed 4, 5, 6 yards from him. I liked what I saw, and hopefully more of the same workload next week against the lackluster run defense in New York can lead to a, better result in the box score at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to get himself a touchdown too, though. I mean, that's, whatever. Yeah, it's just the difference between him and Fournette is Fournette, while he's good, he still dances a little bit. Jones just hits the hole, but sometimes Jones hits the wrong hole because he's so focused on just going that he can't stop himself. So yeah, it was a good day for him. Not a great day, but it was a good one. A lot of those, I mean, he had 20 carries, but some of them were when the game was already decided and the Panthers knew the Bucs were just going to run. So a lot of it's kind of skewed. But it was a good day. As I see him in the end zone, he caught a screen, which was a nice play. It's all about gaining confidence. And I mean, they're going to need him because obviously Leonard Fournette should be back. I keep mentioning this. He should be back for the wild card game, but in the event that he's not, you're going to need Ronald Jones to step up again. So these are good types of games to sort of get his confidence up.
Yeah, and I know we'll mention him just for the sake of mentioning him, but Le'Veon Bell was out there today. Better late than never, I guess. I'll tell you, when he stepped on the field late in the fourth quarter, it looked like a preseason game, by the way. Tom Brady didn't finish the game. Blaine Gabbert filled in. Nick Leverett ran out there. They were taking some of the Pro Bowlers off of the field. You got to do what you got to do, keep these guys healthy. But it was kind of surreal to see Le'Veon Bell in a Bucs uniform.
Weird.
Yeah, these announcers are just, talking about how he wanted to retire and maybe pursue boxing, and now he's looking to chase a ring with Tampa Bay, and it's just, we talked about it when they signed him, but still, it's one of those things that just the amount of names that have passed through Tampa Bay over the past few seasons. Shady McCoy at running back, some other guys who have already played on the team, still on the team. It's just another one of those kind of weird sightings, but hopefully we see a little bit more of him against one of his former teams, New York, next week too.
I think you will. It's got to be a Le'Veon Bell revenge game, right?
Right,
I mean, that's got to be a Le'Veon Bell / Todd Bowles revenge game. It really does. And I mean, Zach Wilson looking like Michael Vick today. You can't have that happen next week.
Hey, well, our guy Tony Baloney in the chat really quick. Well-known Byron Leftwich critic. He says
well-known coaching staff critic, not just Byron.
Yeah, not just Byron here, but our good buddy Tony says much better play calling on offense this week. What did you think overall of the offensive game plan that Leftwich was able to roll out?
I thought the game plan was good because it was necessary. You couldn't come out and throw this ball 40 times. It wasn't going to work. I think I think last week's game really opened their eyes on what they have at receiver, and that Scotty Miller, I know Jalen Darden didn't play, but guys like that, he's not, they're not that great, right? I mean, Tyler Johnson isn't that great. I mean, they knew they were getting AB back, which was a bonus. They didn't have AB last week, but I think that they knew that if they tried to throw the ball 40 times, especially with the Panthers pass rush, being their best unit on defense, really. I mean, Hassan Reddick and Yatir Gross-Matos were basically non-factors today. They didn't really do much, but if you came out and threw that ball 40 times, one, it has Brady susceptible to take hits, which that's the last thing you need, right? I mean, if he goes down, the season is over. If he goes down, I hate when we make fun of all those people saying, well, the season's done. If Tom Brady goes down, yeah, I'll agree. The season is over. But apparently they can win 11 games with Blaine Gabbert. That's what I'm told by people. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game plan. I thought, the mix of run pass was good. You tried to establish a run game, but I also thought, the passes, they made sense. Like I said, scheming to get AB open, scheming to get Surreal Grayson the ball in space where he can use his speed. Like that's the type of things that make sense. And I would expect him to do the same next week. I think like I keep saying, I think Mike Evans is going to try and give it a go one of these next 2 games because they're going to try to get him 1,000 yards. I don't think they're going to push the envelope, but he needs 101 more. And I think they're going to try to get it for him. But yeah, I thought that the game plan this entire week on both sides of the ball was really good. And Carolina's offense sucks, but Carolina's defense has been good this year, and it was a really nice road game, which the Bucs offense has struggled on the road this season. It was really nice to see them, finally be able to put a good game plan together on the road, face some adversity, but overall just be able to really dominate.
Our buddy B Master 6 in the chat also brings up a revenge game for another former New York Jet next week. That's Brashad Perryman. We'll talk about him really quickly. And, the addition of him back into this wide receiver room, I think, can only mean more good news for Tampa Bay. Maybe it'll take him some time to get warmed up. But with Surreal Grayson stepping up the way that he did this week, it's very necessary. It's what you needed. But you can't expect him to do that every single week. And I think adding some more guys to pad out that room, Brashad Perryman coming in at a great time, just more good news for this offense, I think. But yeah, what do you think? But potential BP revenge game this week too. Le'Veon Bell and
maybe James's prediction was just a few weeks off. Right?
Yeah,
maybe it was just a few weeks off. And Frank G mentioned Steve McClendon. We got a bunch of former Jets. I mean,
man,
it's an underrated. It's like Jet South. Man, how about that? Jets and Patriots. The NFC East. I mean, the AFC East. Sorry, the AFC East guys. Man. Yeah, but it's, like I said, talking about next week's game, it's just another opportunity for, for guys to step up. And like I said, I do think Mike Evans will play. That might take some targets away from some other guys, but we'll see. Will in the chat says Tyler Johnson is a disappointment. I had high hopes for him. Today, I didn't think it was a bad Tyler Johnson game just because I didn't seem like that was the game plan. It seemed like he was used more as a blocker, which was, a lot of times Chris Godwin's role. But they were using Tyler Johnson as the blocker in Godwin's role, but they were using Grayson as the screen guy, the guy who got the ball in the hands. So they kind of took 2 players to do one guy's job, and it worked. I mean, Tyler Johnson's probably at this point the best blocking wide receiver they have. So, they're going to be able to use him more, and hopefully I hope he gets some targets, but if he's able to do his job and block, properly, who cares, man?
We got a good question from our buddy G Vegas in the live chat here, and we'll kind of shift focus to another topic, but I think it's one definitely worthy of talking about. His question: can the league fine the refs for not calling a delay of game on the Panthers when the play clock was 0 for 3.5 whole seconds? How horrible was that? This is the second straight week, by the way, that it seems like the officials have missed a blatant delay of game against Tampa Bay. But I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, how about this officiating? It's been even worse on the primetime stages this year.
Yeah, so on that one, it seemed to me like, I don't know, apparently the refs didn't realize it was at 0, but at the same time, like we don't have a video of the sideline, right? So the play clock could have actually been at 1 when the coach is calling a timeout. Like it could have been, and we don't see that. So I don't know, that's always tough to me. Whenever there's a timeout, the Saints one last week, the clock hit zeros and the Saints ran the play and there was no timeout. That should have been a penalty because the Saints ran the play. But the Panthers called a timeout. So that meant that they recognized it was going down. So it just all depends on, we just don't have the access or the camera angles to tell, well, did he actually call the timeout before or the clock hit zeros or not?
I am
Emily,
not. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead real quick.
I was just going to wrap it up real quick. I am not a big conspiracy theory guy. You know that. But do you buy any of the noise that the refs have gotten just awful, absolutely abysmal since a lot of sports betting has passed? Huh? Do you think that's a common factor at all? Do you buy any of that? Are you in on it?
No, I don't think so.
I can't wait for the 30 for 30 one day. That's like, that exposes the corruption of NFL refs from 2020 to 2026, yep. The inside circle.
Rhett from the Cannon Fire podcast on December 26th.
Roger Goodell was in on it. Throw them all in jail.
At 5:35 p.m. Eastern time, he claims that the NFL is corrupt. Well, the NFL won't be the only organization that's corrupt.
It's not too late. I got my tinfoil hat around here. I'll make sure I put it on before the end of the show. But
the NFL has a bunch of teams that are corrupt.
Yeah, I know. Just a bunch of sleazeballs.
Emily asked, "Did
we're kidding? We're kidding, by the way, folks. We're just joking.
Did Vaughn's good game go for naught after that drop pass?" I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's fair because like I said, he ran well. He ran the ball well.
He had a couple more carries afterwards too.
Yeah, and that drop wasn't as egregious as the one last week. That drop was kind of a bullet. He probably wouldn't have got the first down anyway. Yeah, but whatever. Mr. Smith said I'd be about not finding the refs, but instead of one good kick to the nuts. That's a good one. Almost like the longest yard, right? It was the one that Adam Sandler.
There's one kick
where he just throws the ball.
One swift kick of justice.
Speaking of kicks.
Yeah, how about it?
Got out. Ryan Suckup.
Man.
Clap for Suckup. Suckup doesn't suck anymore.
Put him back on the check. Put him back on
your kicks on the checklist once, and he goes 5 for 5 or whatever.
Yep, we put him back on the checklist this week. Under pressure, he steps up. The man is ice cold, and he really was a driving factor in this offense. What was his longest make today? Like 46, 48?
48.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what you need. A good bounce back game for Suckup.
Anything inside of 50, that's what you need.
Yeah, exactly. But you love to see it from him, man.
And shout out to the punter. I'm not gonna try and pronounce his name. I don't know. Shout out to him.
I guess we should address it real quick. So the People's Champ was a healthy scratch today, but he wasn't entirely healthy. I mean, he was just inactive because he's been dealing with a hip injury. He was dealing with a hip injury going into last week's game, but as we know, the offense didn't do him any favors as he punted the ball literally 9 times. So I'm sure his hip is not feeling too great. So he probably just needed a week off. I'd maybe expect him back for the Jets. I mean, at the most time he'll miss is probably the rest of the regular season, but he's fine. I don't think he's in jeopardy of losing his job or anything at this point in the season.
No, but you know what I did see, possibly a guy for the future, maybe, we love Pinion. He's a friend of the show, People's Champ, whatever. Right. You're never going to get us to say anything bad about him. But at the same time, his cap hit's like $2.9 million for next year. That's a lot. Like that's a lot for a punter. So maybe, the Bucs are able to keep this guy. I forget his name, but it starts with an H. Maybe the Bucs are, they're able to keep him, and he's a guy you can keep and maybe be the guy next year, right? His name is Sterling Hofrichter. So his name's fantastic for one.
Yeah, that's that's not the average football name. It's a little German compared to what we're used to, but that's, in my opinion, that's still a great football name altogether.
He sounds like a billionaire's son.
He sounds like the literal embodiment of like a freight train.
Sterling.
Huh? So
hey, hello, madam. My name is Sterling.
I love it.
That's what it sounds like to me. Richard just purchased his hat and T-shirt. There you go. Hat and T-shirt game, Rhett. Just want to remind you one more time, pal.
Yeah, we talked about this before the podcast. I am very glad the Bucs won today, not only because it's first division title in 14 years, hip hip hooray, but I'm so glad I don't have to hear before every single broadcast, oh, it's a hat and T-shirt game for Tampa Bay, because they only mentioned it 8 times last week against New Orleans between the radio broadcast and the TV broadcast. And then this year you had Mark Sanchez and that other chuckle nut up in there. They mentioned it.
I didn't know what you were going to describe him as right there.
Mark
Sanchez sucked, by the way.
Yeah, he was really bad, man. Like they
you can tell he sounds awkward, Like I think he could be good because I do think quarterbacks have some of the best knowledge of the game. Like, no matter, even if you sucked or not, like Dan Orlovsky, he was terrible, but I really like his analysis. But like, it just seemed like he was awkward. So there's our announcing review for this week. When real question. Sorry, I think the Bucs are on Fox the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get Chris Myers? Like, come on, right? Are we?
Yeah,
gonna
no
get
kidding, man.
Chris Myers on the. Come on.
Well, 2020, it took us all the way until
the end,
until week 17 against Atlanta to get our buddy Chris Myers in the booth. They have plenty of time to do it. I mean, the Bucs are probably going to finish the season on Fox. They're done on prime time, right? All the last the last 2 games they have now are both at 1:00.
Yep.
Yeah, no reason you shouldn't put the GOAT Chris Myers up in the booth. But real quick, as we look at the live chat here and start to close things out, our buddy G Vegas, the moderator, says, my biggest takeaway from this game, the defense will not allow more than 22 points for the rest of the season. Here is a bold take from him. They're playing great. Hopefully the Bucs offense can put up the points. What do you think? I think this defense has kind of hit a strong point.
They're playing the Jets and the Panthers. So,
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. I don't know. G Vegas, I like it. I don't know how bold that is. I do think it's possible. We'll definitely see. He also asked, though, real quick, I just want to get this out. He also asked, do players really care about division hats and T-shirts? I doubt Brady kept all from his New England days. Well, no, because they want it every year. So, like, why would you keep it every year?
He's got a box of like 20 of them.
But this one he might keep because, it's about, the first one in the NFC South, the first one in how many years? 14 years for this team. So, he'll probably keep this one. I'm sure every player there, for like Levante David, I understand he wasn't able to play, but this is his first time winning the NFC South. So, like, yeah, that's a big deal. Your first time's a big deal.
Yeah. There was another question in the live chat. I cannot remember who it was from off the top of my head. Actually, our buddy Amazement717 asks us, how would you guys treat Week 18? We talk about the playoff scenario for Tampa Bay. They win the NFC South today, clinch a playoff berth no matter what, so they could lose out. They're still going to be in the postseason. But, I mean, between injuries, wanting to stay healthy for the playoffs, but also wanting to go out there and win this game in the pursuit of maybe possibly, the 2 seed, because I think the 1 seed, while it is not impossible, it definitely feels like that ship has sailed. How do you handle Week 18? If the Bucs go out and slaughter the Jets next week and you got a couple of guys who are, kind of on the mend, do you feel like you can finish the sweep against Carolina, a Panthers team with nothing to play for, with, a lot of your starters not there? Like, how do you measure those expectations for Week 18?
So here's the thing. Assuming that everything goes according to plan, you're still going to need a win Week 18 to be able to get either the 2 or 3 seed, or else you basically almost be, sort of, I guess, giving up and just being the 4th seed. But also, I mean, what if Mike Evans needs 50 yards? What if you're trying to get Tom Brady an MVP? Like, what if you're trying to do some of these things? It's just, and I just don't believe, especially with playing the next week, I would want to keep my players as ready as possible. And I understand the health aspect. I get it. I remember what happened to Mike Evans in week 17 last year. I get it. And maybe, in the 4th quarter, if the Bucs are up 20, yeah, sure, then rest them. But I would at least start them. I would start my whole starting offense. I would start my whole starting defense. And yeah, if you're up 20, 30 points in the 4th quarter, go ahead. You don't play the 4th quarter, whatever. But yeah, I don't. I never really liked that. I never really enjoyed, like in the preseason, I never really enjoyed the teams who don't play any starters. I'm not really a fan of that.
Well, I think if there's a guy that's going to want to be out there, it's definitely going to be TB12, because I think even in today's game, the Bucs were up 32-6, and Brady was literally in that game until that last first down conversion, and then they brought Blaine Gabbert in. Like, I think Gabbert was on the sideline with his helmet on, expecting to start that drive, and Brady went out there. So obviously, I think a lot of these guys are going to want to play, and our buddy Tony says in the chat, resting players is a loser's mentality. And I mean, that's a pretty blunt way to put it, but I do think it's realistic with how most of these guys on the roster have their mindset over these last few weeks of the season, because you want to hit your stride right before the playoffs. And I think that's what continuing to play your good players is going to continue to do.
Yeah, so real quick, Tony also brings up the seeding, and let's end the show with the seeding.
Let's do it.
Here's where the Bucks stand right now. So they entered today. The Cardinals. So here's the deal. Everybody wants a 2 seed, right? The 2 seed is the 1 seed's out the window. The Packers now have to lose both games to the Vikings and Lions.
The Rams have to drop one.
Yeah. So here's the deal. So, for the Bucks to get the 2 seed, one of the check marks has already been checked off. That is the Cardinals losing 1 game. So the Cardinals have now lost 1 game. Now the Bucks need to win out, which is the most important one. You got to handle your own business, or else none of it matters. So you have to beat the Jets, you have to beat the Panthers, and then they also have to have the Rams lose 1 game. If that happens, the Bucks are the 2 seed. Okay, so that's the big one right there. If that happens, that means the Bucks are the 2 seed. Currently, I believe the Cowboys are still the 2 seed because the Cowboys own a tiebreaker, because in a 3-way or 4-way tie, it doesn't go head to head. It goes whatever. But on a head to head tiebreaker, it relies on who won when these teams played. The Bucks beat the Cowboys, so the Bucks will get the 2 seed. So if you want the 2 seed, I believe the Rams beat the Vikings today. I think they play the Ravens next week, and I forget who I think they might finish up with Seattle. Or no, San Francisco. They finish up with San Francisco. I would be rooting for Baltimore next week, and I'd be rooting for San Francisco the week after that, if you want the Bucks to get the 2 seed. There's a few other ways they can get a few different things. The 4 seed is definitely a possibility, which I know nobody wants to hear. I know nobody wants to hear it, but it's possible. It's definitely not something, because then you're talking probably playing the Cardinals, probably. I mean, that game's it would be in Tampa, but like, you don't want to play, you don't want to play that team in the first round, right? Like, you want one of the 6 or 7. So we'll see if Lamar Jackson's ready, if he's ready for next week, be able to beat the Rams. We'll just have to, like I said, we'll have to wait and see. And, it doesn't matter what any other team does. If the Rams lose, the Bucks win out. Rams lose 1, Bucks win out. Bucks are the 2 seed. Right? That's the summary there.
Let me butt in here as the eternal optimist, just to add a little bit of something to think about on top of the situation with LA. The Rams still have San Francisco, and the 49ers, for some reason, just don't lose to the Rams. Like, it doesn't matter how well they are playing that year. It doesn't matter what kind of pace Sean McVay has that offense going.
It's the Bucks and Saints.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for some reason, the San Francisco 49ers, that's their Super Bowl in the division, is stepping up to play the Rams. So hopefully they can do that same thing before the end of the season. But yeah, just another something to think about, you know, as far as capturing that 2 seed goes for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so the way the Bucks could get the 3 seed is if the Cowboys lose a game, but the Bucks and Rams win out, the Bucks would be the 3 seed, with the Rams being the 2 seed. So that if the Cowboys were to lose a game, the Bucks win out, the Rams win out, the Bucks are the 3 seed. Obviously, they play the 6. So you're looking at either San Francisco, New Orleans, Minnesota, or Philly. Washington maybe has an outside chance, maybe, but it's not looking likely. So you'd be playing one of those teams if you were the 2 or 3 seed, as the 6 or 7. So it's important to get it. And obviously, you're looking back on it. You're looking back at the Washington game. You're looking back at both New Orleans games. Specifically, I'm still gonna look back more at the one in New Orleans, because the Bucks actually had the lead in that game. They had the lead. So I'm going to look back at that as the more missed opportunity. But I mean, there's a path for the Bucks to get 2. There's a path for them to get 4. So a lot of football left to be played. I know the season's almost over, but as far as seeding goes, there's a lot that's still to be determined. But there's your quick update right now. I believe the Bucks are still in 4th because the Rams won. The Cowboys, I think, are either playing now or they play tonight. So I don't think there's going to be any change right now. Just be rooting for the Ravens, be rooting for the 49ers, whatever. I mean, if the Ravens beat the Rams, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the 49ers do. It's already done. But hopefully Lamar Jackson can come back next week and be able to beat the Rams.
Yeah, for sure. Let's close it out. Closing thoughts. on the take bag, I'm going to add one really quick, and then I'll toss it to you if you want to add one. This one has to do with the defense throughout the rest of the season, and I'm probably going to go ahead and agree with our buddy G Vegas, who has been in the live chat throughout this one. I think the defense has an opportunity to really hit a stride over these next few weeks. I mean, obviously it helps that they're playing the Jets. They're playing the Panthers again, who the hell knows what they're going to be doing at quarterback in week 18. But, a couple of lackluster offenses. I know you are missing Levante David, but aside from that, I mean, even without Shaq Barrett out there next week, it's still probably on the healthier side that this defense has been all season. You're getting guys back ready for the playoffs. I think the guys who are out on the field are really going to be able to produce and turn it on these next couple of weeks. So I think the defense hits a stride, and I think it's going to be some really good momentum towards the playoffs, and it's exactly what this team needs right now. But I'll call out a strong performance from the defense to close out the year on the take bag. What's your take this week?
Yeah, I'm just gonna give Ryan Succop more props. I mean, this game, he made some big kicks. I mean, he really did make some big kicks. So I'm gonna give him props. Bruce Arians called him out last week, and he really responded well to it. So I'll give him all the props in the world. And the other one, you know what? I'm not gonna. I'll have one more after this because I don't want to end on this. Jordan Whitehead's a free agent at the end of the season. He made himself, I think, some money just today alone. You'd love to have him back, right? I just don't think that's going to be possible. You can't bring everybody back every year. Do you want Carlton Davis back? Okay, then if you do, it might be at the expense of Jordan Whitehead. It might be. Do you want Alex Kappa or Ryan Jensen? It doesn't seem like they'll be able to bring both those guys back. It'll be one or the other. It's tough to bring everybody back every single season. There's ways to manipulate the cap, but Whitehead has earned himself a big contract, and I think somebody's going to give him it. And I'm not sure if that's Tampa, but hey, he keeps balling out, and he would have earned any penny that he receives, he will have earned. And also, it's a quiet game from Joe Tryon today, but I thought Shaq Barrett played really well. So I think Joe Tryon's going to have ups and downs, filling in for Jason Pierre-Paul there. And Anthony Nelson, I want to give him a shout out. I thought he played well. He's starting to come into his own as a pass rusher. So that's a little take there. Anthony Nelson starting to develop a little bit of pass rushing moves. Took him long enough, but it's nice to see him get a sack. And I believe he has 3 on the year now. So a nice little stat for him.
Oh yeah, man. The 11-4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are NFC South Champions for the first time since 2007. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with us live on YouTube today. Everybody in the live chat, our good friend Tony Baloney, B Master, Madanch, Coca, G Vegas, the moderators, Willie Beeman holding it down. Thank you, fellas, for your service. Joel L. Rican, Amazement 717, and anybody else that I may have missed. Thank you for hanging out with us here today. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Plenty of great Buccaneers content, and we're really trying to amp some things up for you guys as the playoffs get started, so stay tuned for that. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show, and of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram, rapidly approaching 30,000 followers. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. We'll talk to you guys on the podcast later on this week for a new edition of the midweek mailbag, so keep an eye out for that. And plenty of great content throughout the rest of the week over on our YouTube channel. Thanks once again for checking out this week's edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast presented by betonline.ag. We'll talk to you guys later. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.